Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Discovery series here at Aira, Discovering Aira and Content Creation. I'm Janine Stanley, and I am the Director of Customer Communications here at Aira, and we have quite a panel for you today talking about a topic that probably even 5 years ago we would not have been able to go into in this depth that we're looking at today, and that's content creation. And we have a range of folks here in our panel who do a range of things. And why don't I just cut to it and get to those folks? So, the first of our panelists is Iris Pang. Iris, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what kinds of content you create?
Sure, of course. And thank you so much for having me on this panel. I appreciate it. So my name is Iris Panic and I'm a content writer. Currently, I am writing for a coffee site, Homeground. And essentially, my job is to write blog posts, product roundups, and reviews uh, for small businesses and content agencies.
Ah. And next on our panel is Wenwei Fisher. Wenwei?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Wenwei Fisher and I teach ESL, that's English as a Second Language. I am primarily responsible for ensuring that people can both input and output language. And the content that I create are videos and visual charts.
Ah. Our next panelist is Robert Kinchett. Hi, Robert.
Hello. So I am a writer. I write fiction and nonfiction, and including au- 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 audio description.
Ah, now that will be something very interesting to hear about. We also have with us today Brian Velasquez. Hey, Brian.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to be on this panel. My name is Brian Velasquez from Upper Manhattan. I am 31 years old, and I currently work for Omnium Circus. And part of what I do is I do outreach and group sales. And part of outreach, as you guys know, in the world of the circus, you stick your hand in everything. And part of that is advertising. So I do
Whoa.
record screenshots and create reels with the music, or if not, I do videos sometimes, and even for hobbies. So I also do TikTok videos and YouTube videos, which you'll hear about in a little bit. So
Awesome.
sit back, relax, and get ready for a ride.
And I get to say live from New York, it's Brian Velasquez. Just because I've always wanted to say that. All righty. Let's see. We also have with us today Claire Potter. Hello, Claire.
Hello,
Claire.
it's great to be here. I'm here. So, my main form of content creation is photos for social media. So, I mainly use the Canva creation software. I've used that for about nearly 3 years now. And I've done a number of photos for my own business. So I have a retail business, so it's important to consistently create content with that. So I've done that for a number of years, and I've also done a little bit of logo work and some presentation video work as well. Again, using mainly the Canva software. So I do this on a regular basis, and I love it.
Oh wow, you were going to be deluged with Canva questions. I can tell you that.
Happy to help. Great to be doing it.
And before I introduce the folks from Aira here, do we have Dan Bailey on our panel yet? Or might Dan be out in our participants? We were hoping Dan could join us today. He is a YouTuber and does lots of live content. And if we find him, we will let y'all know. But we have from Aira one of our amazing agent managers, Amanda. Hey, Amanda, thank you for taking some time out of your day today to be with us and talk all things Aira and content creation.
Hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. I have moved up in management, so I don't get to deal with our explorers quite as much now. And it's so exciting to get to talk to everybody here.
Awesome. And a familiar voice to many of you, one of our wonderful agents and my fantastic producer, Sid.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Janine. Hi, everybody.
Hey. Alrighty, so where we're going to go with this panel, we kind of broke it down into the three stages of content: creation, excuse me, preparation, creation, and presentation. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists for the preparation stage. What kinds of things do you do to get ready to work with an Aira agent? Is there anything special that you do to prepare? And we will start with live from New York and Brian. Is there anything that you do before you contact the agent that helps you with the tools that you use?
Very good question. And part of what I do is setting up the camera. Y'all know blind photography. Y'all been there. Come on. Where sometimes the video comes wrong, or sometimes your head is showing but not your face. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really nitpicky with that. I get really anxious with that. So what I do is I try to set the camera on the table or wherever, and then I'll call Aira if need be, and they'll be like, okay, your camera is positioned in front of you, but now move the camera up, move the camera down a little bit, move it to your right just a smidge, which is the hard part because if you move it a little bit to the right, boom, your image is cut off or your arm could be cut off, whatever. It's really a jigs. It's like a puzzle you got to put together, and it comes with practice. So don't feel ashamed if you have to use Aira for that. It's okay to use. That's why it's there. Use it. So yeah, and that's basically what I use the camera
Okay, so
for
your
the video.
primary tool then is the camera.
Yes.
Do you have a setup with your camera where maybe you are doing it, maybe not even head on, but further back from the camera?
Um, could you reiterate that, please?
Sure. Do you have a setup with your camera where you're maybe filming yourself more than just head and shoulder shot, maybe a full body shot with the camera?
It depends. That really depends on what the video I'm doing because I do a little bit of both. Some for the circus, and some for just for me to do to show off
Mm-hmm.
my blind swag. Especially I've really been
Yep.
TikToking lately.
And
So mostly it's more of like a face shot, even a
and
whole body
Brian, you
shot, but
did. Mhm.
yeah,
Cool. And I
mostly
remember
it's face.
you were involved in a story about Ira actually a while back. So I'm sure you're
Yes,
big.
actually, you're right. You're right. I wasn't involved in a news report for Ira. This was little backstory. I thought we can get to everybody else, but it's going to be a quick story. So this news reporter from WNYC Radio in New York did a news report with someone who's disabled, and she was looking for someone who was disabled to complete the news report and actually walk with them and travel around the city. So she had a series of interviews, and I was chosen to do the trip. We took a trip to Shake Shack. You guys could find it on the NYC NPR radio. There's a link, and it's on
Mhm.
Gothamist.com. It's from 2020, so it's pretty
Awesome.
old.
And we
So
will put everyone's links to their content and all of your information about everyone in the notes for this episode when we put out the podcast. And
sure.
you'll also be able to find them on the internet. So let me go next to Robert. What kinds of things do you do, Robert, to prepare for working with an agent before you get the agent involved? And what content creation tools do you use when you're putting together your pieces?
Sure. So, depending on what I'm actually doing, if I'm posting a book cover to social media, for example, I make sure to be logged in to the service in question, and I also make sure that I have my i- image ready to be sent in an email or now through the desktop app to ensure that the agent gets the image for describing and for tweaking and posting. In terms of audio description, when I write audio description, I take copious amounts of notes um, before the call. So timestamps keep things I hear, and uh, then I keep all that in a notepad ready for the call.
Interesting. And then you have the agents. Whoops, excuse me. There we go. And you have the agents from that point helping to fill in at those timestamps, maybe visual
Yes.
information that was missed or
Yes.
details that you'd like to elaborate on.
Yes.
Ah, interesting. And when you are doing book covers, you said, how do you create the images for the book covers, or do you have those done outside
So,
of your shop, or how do you
r-
get your book covers?
right. So I'm traditionally published, so that means that I don't really have any large control over my book covers. My literary agent and my publisher handle the majority of that, but what they will do is they will send me mock-up um, versions of the book covers and then kind of have me choose uh, which one that I like the best.
I always wondered how that worked because book covers are such an important thing, even, end leaf kinds of things. Those are just so important today, still in books, which is good to know. Let's go to Wenwei. What do you do to prepare?
So my process has changed over the years, but now what I do to prepare to work with an agent is they are, I would say, the first round of information that I need to collect in order to create information. So I try to go with an outline or a bolded list of a series of objectives that I'd like to accomplish, so that I can talk to the agent about my idea, brainstorm, discuss pacing, font size, how much space I have to work with, the information that should be front and center, what they're going to notice. And that really helps me create an email that is more legible to the people that I hire to do to create a lot of the visual content that would not be fully accessible to a screen reader user. So then I really value those relationships with my graphic designer, the Aira agents, and my video editor, so that I can create the best content that forms me in a very consistent light. So while I'm on a call with an agent, we will gather information about hex codes. We will ensure that the font and the type is at a consistent height if I need to change it. And we will create a few things, and I will ask the agent some important questions that mainly I would say that based on experience, I've kind of learned what to ask for, so then they can kind of give me the information I need. Like, okay, so is this name too small here, or is this off center, or is the a lot like are my margins off center somehow, so that if like my right margins aren't lined up with my left, like with my other margins, if the text is centered, is that distracting, especially like if stuff isn't formatted in a straight line, if it can't fit on the line. So it's a process of trying to find a balance between the space that I have to work with and the font type as well as the font size.
Ah,
In terms of cameras, and the way that I shoot videos, a lot of that is handled by my video editor, but I have bought thanks to some suggestions from agents, some ring lights that ensure that I am consistently lighted. Because whatever you're doing, that is, I would say, one of the most important things. As long as everything is consistent and you start to really pay attention to the structure of the way that the structure in which information is presented, so that you can call an Aira agent and ask for the information that you need in order to realize this structure, and so that it's legible to a sighted audience.
Awesome. And for those who were wondering, hex values are colors. Those are the colors, right?
Yes, my apologies. I forgot
Oops.
to define that.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
That brought back my old web design days. So it's like, oh, yes, I remember all of this. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing and very cool. There we go. Alrighty, let's go to Iris now.
So for me, when I prepare to work with an Aira agent, I think one of the most important things to do is to have a holistic concept of what you're shooting for. So, for instance, recently I wrote a piece about the 45 Starbucks drinks that are top 45 Starbucks drinks for 2022. And so as part of the site that I write for, we have a style guide, an editorial guide, as well as a brand guide for any sort of visual assets. So that includes videos and graphics and color schemes. Color palettes that our agency is going for. So what I typically do is I've had agents describe to me what the example graphics look like. I usually try to have those samples set out in tabs before I even call the agent. And for this particular piece that I was working on, I had a similar article pulled up already so that they could visually see what we were trying to accomplish. And I find personally for me that really helps, especially when you're in the midst of creating the content. It's kind of difficult it takes up a lot of time if during a call I have to say, oh, hold on a second, let me pull XYZ example up for you. It's a good idea to always have that open beforehand in your tab so that your agent can take that first few minutes and scroll through so they have a holistic idea of what you need to do.
Oh, that is fantastic advice. And actually, it's funny, I've started working that way, kind of just, generically to stay organized. Claire, let's go to you. And because working with something like Canva, or really any of these tools, but Canva in particular, is such an imaginative process, you're using your own imagination. How do you prepare to work with the agent before you even make that call?
Well, I mean, my process has changed over time as well, because the way I use Canva now is nothing like when I first started. That's one thing for sure. I think when I started, I was very much just kind of playing about with it and didn't take it too seriously and didn't really realize its full potential. So Canva is not the most accessible pieces of software out there. It's usable, but it's not enough. But in terms of usability before making the call to Aira, it is good enough to make something to just get started with, to at least give the agents maybe a brief idea as to the kind of thing that I would like to do with them. So I normally tend to start my design with them either from something that I've made before, where I can copy my previous template and maybe just make a few amendments, just to give them an idea of what we're doing today. And I also make sure that I write out anything in particular that I'd like them to know and put all that into a message for them using the Aira text feature, so that when they pick up the call, they can get a really good idea of what we're doing, and we're going to Canva from there, and I can show them what I've made, and we can pretty much kind of just work out from there whether we're on the right track or do we need to start all over again because I really couldn't make the right choices. It's not always, it's not that consistent and it's very unpredictable at times, but I like to at least try and just start somewhere so that we can pick up from, well, hopefully a good point and continue together.
Ah, fantastic. Now, I neglected to ask our other panelists, and I'll get you folks on our next time around here. But Claire, do you have any usable vision that helps you in this task? Or are you going at it sort of from a point of not really having any usable vision, but having a really amazing imagination?
So for me, I don't, the only sight I have is just a little bit of shadow and light and dark. So it's pretty much, I'm a full-on screen reader, just Braille and screen reader user. So a lot of it is research based and asking sort of visual opinions on what could work and kind of having different things to choose from. So yeah, it's pretty much just imagination and research put together and asking for the visual opinions if I'm not 100% sure what to pick.
Fantastic. And the reason that I ask this, and please feel free to decline, disclosing this information, folks. But one of the reasons that I ask is that we are going to target some employers with this information and say there is no reason that a blind person can't do this type of work. And any thoughts on that? I hear everybody kind of going, yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I agree with you. Just to chime in really quick, it's Brian Velasquez,
Yeah.
by the way. That is a very good point, especially, and it screams out to what I work for. I work for Omnium Circus. We're all inclusive. We're America's first inclusive circus, virtual
Wow.
and live. All shows are audio described, and all shows have sign language interpretation. So we include both the audience as well as the performers. So it's a diverse cast. Like for example, we have a woman who does amazing aerial silks with no legs.
Oh.
Thing.
Oh.
The person who signs with the ringmaster, he performs. He's deaf. You have we got an award for Employment of the Month.
Wow.
Employment.
This
So,
sounds.
Because this year is Employment Awareness Month, and we are the
Got
number
it.
one.
Yep. October, and we are really leaning into ending this year
Yes.
with this kind of content. So,
So-
Brian, we'll start with you. Actually, how much vision do you have to create, and is it usable vision? Because it's one thing to
No.
have vision, and another to have vision you can trust and really use.
No,
to
I
help.
have little to no sight at all. I only have a little bit of light perception, so I have to really depend on, people tell me where the camera is, or trying to wing it at times. What if I didn't have that? You get what I'm saying? So it was an adventure at first. When I first started doing content and creating videos, I'm like, oh, how do I aim this? Am I aiming this right? Am I doing this right? Oh my God. I'm not, are people going to see a talking head? What they're going to see? What they're going to do? So, but over time, I started to find strategies, and, I still use the agents from time to time, which is nothing wrong with that. But I try to find other strategies as well, because what if they're not around?
Got
it. It's the tough task. I'm telling you, it's really tough. But thankfully for me, when it comes to the circus, I don't really do much talking in videos, as you may think for now. But when it comes to my videos, like to for TikTok or whatever, because you're going on a public platform here. It's not like la-di-da-di-da. It's a public platform. People are looking at your content, man.
Oh yes.
So you want to really be on point. You don't want no talking head on the damn camera doing impressions of your friends or Wendy Williams, like, how you doing? Hi, it's Wendy. Nah, you want to show your face. You want to be boom boom. You want to be cool. So yeah, that's goes for my vision. I have little to no sight at all. So I really have to depend on a lot of other cues besides vision. So I'm gonna
Wenwei, how about you?
I only have light perception. I don't have any usable vision that I can trust.
All right. And how did that affect you deciding to do the type of work that you're doing? Because you've had quite a journey in this content creation. I've been following
I
Wenwei on Twitter for quite a while.
I have. I think part of it is that I have my background is in writing center pedagogy, and most people would work with me, and it wouldn't really be an issue. And you would get that one client who would look at my face and would ask for a different consultant because they didn't think I could be very effective because they also wanted to work on formatting. So when I started branching out on my own, I internalized the fact that I needed a lot of visual assistance and a lot of visual interpreting. And it was a journey, as Janine pointed out. I didn't really know where to start or what I wanted or how to best utilize my time with agents. I don't know if I've always made the best decisions when I was working with them, or I would like to think that working with me wasn't too difficult. It was, and I really appreciated the fact that I had this time with them, because I have been able to ask as many questions as I needed to in order to convey the type of content that I needed to a primarily sighted audience. I think it's one thing to create content on YouTube for a blind audience, another when you are creating it for sighted people. They have different expectations. And if they know that you're blind, or if they don't, they also will have different expectations. And that's something that you need to consider, your audience and how you want to handle that. So my training as a writing center consultant has enabled me to really ask questions and to get the information that I needed. So with that, I'm sorry, I feel like I am repeating myself, but
Actually, this is great, because coming from a place of being unsure, oh my gosh, okay, I
yeah,
want to do this. I think I sort of know what I want to do. And I think a lot of people are in that position. And what I'm hearing from you and what I'm hearing from our other panelists is, don't be afraid to just dive right in and say, okay, let me take a look at what's out there and see if I can get some visual interpretation. And we're going to talk about that here in a bit with our agent, and figure out what other people are doing, what things look like out there, and then how to make your own kind of style.
Yeah, and I just very slowly over time, I noticed that agents were telling me consistently, whether they are working with me on the same project or whether they have worked with me for hours on end, the same thing. One agent would say, "Oh, this is too fast for me," like my subtitles or the way that I would speak, like my presentation in videos, or, "Oh, like I can't read this too quickly," which is essentially the same thing, right? So then slowly I started to learn exactly how to branch out on my own and how to take risks without needing to verify that with an Aira agent every 5 seconds. And it really was a result of a lot of trial and error, a lot of trust and confidence in your own work, and the fact that people take the time to explicitly tell you, well, this is why I like this, or this is why I think that this is effective, or this is why this stands out to me more. And that's such a, honestly, like, it's a privilege to be able to get that information and to have so much one-on-one attention when someone is evaluating your content before you send it off to either clients, or if you want to market it, or if you pay someone who has an expertise in creating content, so that they don't misunderstand your vision because you do not have the vocabulary to quite articulate visually what you want.
Well, I'm going to go because Robert has a hard stop here at 3 o'clock. So we're going to go to Robert next. And Robert, can you tell us a little bit first about your vision and then a little bit about your creative process as you're working with an agent to create your stories and the visuals that go with them, the books, etc.?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a totally blind person, so I don't have any usable vision at all. In terms of in terms of the process, I generally have an agent remote in to my computer, but what I will also do is I'll queue up links. Because my manuscripts have to be in proper manuscript format. Uh, Publishers like Random House and things, they really care about the formatting of the manuscript. So I send it, like if I'm really pressed for time or something, I I I will send them a copy of the manuscript and then I'll send them a link uh, to proper manuscript format and say, well, this has mouse instructions. I would like you to follow these instructions exactly, and make sure that things look uh, right, like margins, everything like that. For the covers, for sharing covers and things on social media, what I do is I'll have the agent write out a text description of the covers, and then send that to me in an email. When I write audio description for movies and TV shows. Um, I will share my screen and then share the timestamps I need the agent to go to, and then they will scrub to that uh, 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 timestamp, and then uh, they will watch uh, the movie and then deal with my myriad uh, uh, of questions about what's happening in this current frame right now. So that's a lot, I know, but I do a lot
Oh
of
no, that's
those.
now I have a big question, and
Mhm.
people who follow me on social media will know I ask this. But when you do your audio description, do you do a lot of research into getting the characters correct, the names of the
Yes,
characters, and things like that?
yes,
Great. Oh,
yes.
I love you for that. Okay, just saying. As a super fan of a couple shows, it is really important and it does affect the plot and things like that. So that's great. Do you ever use an agent to maybe look up some things about a show that you're not familiar with?
Yes, yes. Will actually often use an agent look up um, to look up actors and make sure that I get their skin tones correct and make sure that I get their e- ethnicities correct as well.
Ah, now that's fascinating because that's something that has just evolved in content creation over the past few years, is getting that correct and actually portraying that as part of your content. Great. Robert, is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about the process working with the agents, tips that you might have, and then in that final process of presentation of your work, anything to share with folks?
Sure. So final tips. I would say just try to be prepared because it really does make your call go a lot smoother if you have things already queued up and prepared as much as you can. For presentation, I so when I have an agent post my covers and things to social media, uh, what I'll do is I'll have the agent schedule a time for the post to go out, and then I make sure that the timing is correct, and I make sure the alt text and everything is included in the picture. In terms of audio description, I so presentation happens beyond the agent call. So basically, I just deliver my script to the um, to quality control check or to the narrator, and that happens independently of the agent. So.
Gotcha. Fascinating. And please, please tell us before you leave us, where can we find you online and where can we find your work?
Sure. So the easiest place is to go to my website, which is blindjournalist.wordpress.com. Eh, 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 If you go there, you'll see my social media, you'll see my books and my short stories, and you'll see my audio description work. So check it out.
All right, blindjournalist.wordpress.com. And you can check out Robert, follow him on social media, definitely. You are also a part of our Facebook group. I know that for certain,
Yes.
the Aira Facebook group. And so, so many folks on this panel are. So that's wonderful. Let me move over here to Iris before we get to our agents. And then we're going to kind of circle back for a couple questions for a few folks. Iris, tell us a little bit about yourself, your level of vision, and how that plays into what you are creating with agents.
Sure. So I myself have no usable vision. And so what I found to be really, really helpful is in my profile, I have it specifically stated for Aira Agents to provide as much visual feedback as possible. So, i.e., vivid descriptions of, objects, they're describing a video or a picture. My whole goal in whether it's typography or if I have to select graphics to accompany my content, so that can include anything from Instagram posts to TikToks to sometimes tweets or any other sorts of media. My whole goal is to understand visual concepts as holistically and completely as I can. So that includes perspective and color and spatial elements within the actual visual media. Because I find that the more knowledge I gain in that aspect, the easier it is for me to then, in the future, kind of really have like I said before, like an overall concept of what I'm trying to create, but as well as instruct an agent on specifically what to look for. A lot of times especially when I'm writing posts that require, a picture for every subheader to accompany the content, I really have to describe very detailed to the agent what sort of aesthetic I'm going for. Because otherwise, honestly, it has taken hours to look for photos.
I can imagine.
Oh yeah, and then keeping up with hashtags, and then even outside of work, when I'm not creating content for any clients, I do my best to keep up with visual memes, what they look like, have agents describe like TikTok videos, what sorts of effects are being used, etc., etc. So, yeah.
Wow. And I found that, once you start doing this, either audio editing, content, any of this stuff, you're always noticing it, right? You're always, wherever you are, you're thinking, oh, I wonder what that looks like. Oh, I'm going to have to ask somebody what color that is.
Right.
Or, oh,
Yeah.
good, somebody described that meme. Oh, fantastic. Now I know.
And I think just for me personally, understanding why something works the way it does is tremendously helpful in creating like a broad framework and incorporating that idea of future content creation.
Mm, incredible. I'm going to circle back now to Claire and ask the question that I know many, many people are anxious to ask you, Claire. So let's talk about the creative process with you in Canva. Let's say you have an idea for something. How does that end up becoming a social media post?
So it just depends on the post I'm doing, really, because I have done content before for a number of projects. So some of it has been for my business, and some of it has been for other people where they've asked me to do some work for them. But again, it's a very similar concept. It's just the content type. So it goes from basically me doing my so when I know what content I want to or I need to create, it basically comes down to me writing down what I would like it to look like. So I write some notes to myself of what I can basically see in my head at that point and what I imagine it to look like. So I then go into Canva and like I mentioned before, it's not the most accessible pieces of software to give you an amazing start, but I create what I think is hopefully a good enough design to give me a head start and to show the agent and say this is what I'm potentially hoping to work with, but I also give them a detailed description, as detailed as I possibly can. And I either have the agents remote into my Canva account here at my end through the remote software, could be TeamViewer normally. If I'm in a real rush and I really can't do that, sometimes it's just easier for them to log in through my account details. We have that. We have done that before as well. It sometimes it just makes things easier because of the delay that can sometimes happen with TeamViewer, sadly. So it's just it's a time management thing, really. It just depends how much time I have on my hands. And if we have a good enough head start, it's much easier for us to work together. They ask me what fonts I'm looking for in terms of what I'd like to use, what colors. Those are not easy to set up in Canva independently, so I really need a lot of help with that. Same as adding images. In particular, sometimes I have stock photos that I have to use myself if it has something given to me, but I do also have to use the inbuilt Canva library, which again, I do need a lot of help with that from the agents to give me a really good description of what the photo has to help me decide, do I want to use that or something else? And again, same with background. So it's a very, even though there's a lot to it, it's pretty much a similar structure all the way throughout. It's basically like, I like to think of it like a layered way of working, really. So it's almost like you've got the different layers of the overall design. So we work on all of that together. I always try and have a few different options with the agents. So a few different fonts that we could try and work with to see which one looks best, a few different backgrounds, a few different text colors. And I always ask for their opinion on which one could potentially look the best one, because I do have knowledge, but I don't always feel like I have enough. So it's just something to help me decide.
Oh, well, thank you so much. This is getting me excited about Canva, because I took a look in there the other day and I said, "Wow, this is a lot more accessible than it used to be. So much more of it is readable than the first time I popped in there." And
well, it's interesting because they had an update recently, and sadly some of it broke. So
no.
things like the save window, for example, was really, really good before, and now it doesn't work anymore.
Oh,
but then again,
no.
some of the other parts do work better. So it's almost like they fix one thing and then break something else. So it's like,
That
oh no.
sounds
It's
familiar
very
to operating systems and whatnot. So yeah.
well, this is a web-based form, and this is a web-based app, so it changes even more. I think every single week you have at least an
Wow.
update, maybe 2, 3
Wow.
sometimes. So you never know what's going to happen from one time to the next.
Wow.
So it's
Well,
a learning curve for me all the time as well.
oh
Just
my
following
gosh.
one thing, it's like,
I
oh
was
no, I
going to
need to
say,
change this.
this is fascinating. And I have a feeling,
These things move.
all of you on this panel are going to get bombarded afterward with questions from folks. But now it is time to shift over to our agents, Sid and Amanda, and talk a little bit about, from the agent's perspective, what can help people who want to create content of any type. I mean, we've got everybody here from video to print to electronic digital kind of journalism to all of these things. Amanda, when people are preparing to create content, any thoughts about that from the agent point of view?
Well, first of all, I really do love the variety of different types of content creation that you have represented here. I think that's great because we do see a little bit of everything, and it really depends on what your content is, what you're going to need to do ahead of time. But like Robert said, the more detailed notes that you have, the better. Have everything that you can possibly prepared. Iris said a holistic view. That's exactly right. Have everything, give an overview either by verbally or a written description if you want to have it typed out so you don't forget anything, or an example. Having an example that you can say, this is what I do regularly, and looking at this, can you make this new one look similar to that? That is huge because you can encompass so much and save so much time just by looking at what has been done previously. It can be a huge time saver. Sending stuff through Messenger, having all that prepared. Anything that you can prepare ahead of time is going to save your minutes, save your time in general. The Aira for Desktop makes it so easy that you can send the files over directly. So having those ready, or all prepared in an email to where you just need the agent's email address to pop that in, saves a lot of times. You're not having to go through and get links if you're trying to send it that way. Let's see, Canva. That was an interesting one because I've done, I've had explorers call in and they're like, hey, we're going to do some graphic designing. Do you have any experience? Absolutely not. I am not a graphic designer, but we can make this work. And you know what? It came out great because they were able to tell me what they were looking for. And I used that along with my visual interpretations of what the different pictures were and the different icons to create what they were looking for. And I've done a lot of different things in Canva that way. And, I know it sounds like an impossible task to actually do visual interpretation and just use your eyes and not your brain, as Iris says, but you really can do that. You can get exactly what the explorer is looking for without putting your opinions in it at all, if you just, provide a great detailed description of things. So I think for preparation, that's the best way to be able to do things. I love that the panelists here, how they've described that their ways of doing things have changed over time, because that's the end goal. Aira is just a tool in your toolbox to get things done, and I absolutely love empowering explorers with information that they can use to do stuff independently. Don't be afraid to ask agents, do you know a better way? Or if you don't know how to do something, we will gladly look it up. If you have a tool that you use regularly, providing the information to the agent ahead of time of how to do it is great. Like was mentioned before, having notes in your profile, you can actually have the agent put notes in your profile of exactly what steps need to be taken. If it is a tool that you use regularly, those agents will refer back to those notes, and you can just tell the next agent the notes are in there. And I know some stuff seems like it might be simple to navigate, but like there was an explorer the other day that called in, and he Jaws was reading a button that was not visually there on the screen. It wasn't there. So it took a little bit for the agent to work
There's
through.
a different kind of situation, right?
Yeah. So Jaws was reading a sub menu that the agent couldn't see. So they had to go through slowly to figure it out. And here it was a little caret drop down, and there was the button that they were looking for. And it was just hidden. It wasn't visually accessible at all,
Oh,
believe it or
wow.
not. So, you just never know. And that's important information that the next agent would need to know. How to get to things can really help till you get updates, like was mentioned.
Yeah.
Then you get updates and everything changes. But
Oh.
having that information there is a huge time saver all around for everybody.
Awesome. Now, Sid, you are by profession a person who works in video quite a bit. Let's say we want to use video in maybe a TikTok or YouTube or something professional, which could be on either one of those platforms, actually. Um, what hints can you give or tips can you give to people to get ready to work with an agent with video?
Well, one of the key things I would suggest is that make sure that the Explorer actually has the software that they're wanting to utilize on their own system. Um, Sometimes there may be a thought that agents may have access to a certain program, and while it is true that Ira does provide a certain level of base support for certain programs, when you start getting into more proprietary kind of systems, when you're trying to like work with Adobe Premiere or Apple's
Oh,
Final Cut Pro or Avid Media Composer or different kinds of media creation kinds of programs, an Aira agent is not going to typically have access to that software. So if an Explorer has that program already downloaded onto their system, that can go a long ways towards getting started in creating it. It doesn't necessarily mean you actually have to purchase the most expensive software program out there or the fanciest software, but certainly with base level media creation, you do need to have a tool set to start from.
awesome. And what about areas where you're going to video? Is that something you should think about ahead of time, or is that something that, you know, it, I'm sure it probably helps to think about the areas ahead of time and do a little work on, exactly where do I want to be and do I have to clean my office or can I use a background? Janine says.
Abs- Absolutely. One of the things that you'll want to do, and this is something where Ira, both in terms of using the typical tool sets, whether it's with a mobile device or with Ira's desktop, we have the ability to look at your environment. And this is, before a program begins, before we start doing something with an Explorer, it's perfectly appropriate to take the time to ask them to describe the setting, describe what elements are in the foreground, what elements are in the background. Make sure that those details that you're comfortable with. I mean, for example, before we started our broadcast today, Janine and I briefly chatted about what the backdrop was, how her shirt appeared, how the microphone appeared, how the environment was. Presentable to make sure that she felt comfortable in how the broadcast would go. And it's definitely worthwhile for an explorer to take that time to ask them to describe their surroundings.
And if I sit still, it usually works. But oh my goodness. So now let's move to the actual creation, the making of the piece. And we'll go with Sid first. So somebody's with you creating a video, let's say. Um, what tips can you give them to maximize their time with you when you're actually helping them create the product?
Well, one of the things, and this is going to sound a little bit of repeat, but I think Wenwei and our several of our panelists have already mentioned this, and that is go in with a kind of a priority list of what's most important, what's second most important, what's third most important, and then make it in relation to how much time do you actually want to spend to time to do it. Some of our agents have experience using different multimedia tools. Some agents do not. So it's a matter of taking the time first to think in terms of prioritizing what's most important. And then also, I think it is helpful if you've got a general rough idea about how a particular effect or how a particular what it is you want to have accomplished can be done. Having some rudimentary understanding of how some of the programs work can be helpful because, like I said, when you're going into some of the different types of media creation tools, some of them are kind of complex, and so the depth of it can be a little bit um, challenging for an agent that may not have experience in using the tool.
Now, I do have a question about that, Sid. So, let's say I am somebody who has not ever had any usable vision. Um, and I want to do some sort of video effect. I hear that this video effect is really cool, but I'm not quite sure what it is. Can I use some of my time with an agent to go look up maybe on YouTube some examples of maybe crossfades or, certain transition effects, things like that?
Absolutely. And what's nice about working with an agent, when you start looking at some of the content creation tools, they'll say things like crossfade or dissolve, or maybe a page turn or a peel. Or there's different kinds of effects that are
Mhm.
transitions that go from one, say shot A to shot B. And what an explorer, what an agent can convey is that like a dissolve is kind of like a blending, a gradual blending of shot one into shot two. And one of the things that an agent can explain also is there's something called duration. Do you want this effect to last a second? Do you want it to last 5 seconds, or do you want it very quick? And these kinds of aesthetic descriptions can be helpful because it kind of changes how the mood of a piece may be put together. And so having that kind of information to an explorer, sharing that can allow the explorer then to kind of determine, well, yes, I want a softer approach, I want a gentle approach, or maybe I want something fast and moving and fast, quick cutting. And so having a description of transitions is I think very valid.
Awesome. Okay, we will go back to Amanda. Let's talk about while you're actually making the thing. You addressed a fair amount of things while you're actually making the project, but is there anything that you can maybe give us on not only making it, but then actually putting it up there, getting it out to the greater world with an agent?
Um, Getting it out to the greater world with the agents is an interesting feat because each program has its own little ways of doing things. That's where saving notes on exactly how you like it done. If you want your video to publish every Saturday at 6 p.m., have those notes there of exactly how you want it. I've watched videos of some of our agents doing it in different ways, and it takes longer when you don't know exactly what is being explained. Yes, our agents for the most part know how to do your alt text and things like that, but you know what? Be prepared to tell them how, just in case they don't, because that information is going to save you time in the long run. I do love what Sid was talking about making sure your background, is right. Be specific in exactly what you want. If you're doing a TikTok and you just want to be, in the bottom corner of the video, let the agent know that, because if you say, you just want to know where your positioning is, they're probably going to assume you want to be in the center of the picture. There was an explorer recently that called in and they wanted a picture of something taken, and they didn't explain that this was going up online or anything. And it was a dark room. The agent took a picture. It didn't show up. They took them to a bright room, took a picture, and they said, oh, well, what's in the background? And this was a 5-minute free call. And they said, oh, well, there's a toilet in the background.
Oh
And
no.
they said, oh, well, I want to put this up online. Well, at this point, it's like 4 minutes and 43 seconds in. There was no time to finish getting that photograph and get it sent to them properly, and, the information written up like they wanted. Had they said in the beginning, I would like this picture to be taken, well lit, it's going up online, and that this could have been done in 2 minutes. So preparation really is key, even if in the end it's just talking about uploading it. Knowing what you're doing ahead of time makes a difference. When it comes down to preparing the video, creating things, putting it together, if it's a video, be specific. If you want your video to only be 5 minutes or 2 minutes, whatever it is you're looking for, let the agent know your final outcome and they can work with you on that. And then uploading it itself, again, it just comes down to specifics, letting them know what you want. They can do as much or as little. Time was mentioned. Time is key. If you want them to take a long time, they definitely can. If you want this to be a quick thing, it's not going to be as great a quality, but they can definitely do it. So just give them what you want and they can work with that. And, a lot of the agents do have tips and tricks that can help you along the way too. So giving them that holistic view can help them to say, hey, you might want to do it this way instead.
Awesome. Now I'm going to go back around to everybody here because we are, believe it or not, and I knew this was going to fly by because this is such, I mean, we could totally be here for hours, honestly, talking about this kind of thing. But let me go around the circle and have you tell us where people can find you, but then also any final thoughts about blind people, low vision people, people with any kind of disability doing content creation. I'm going to start with Wenwei.
Well, I do not have content on the web. It's all through WeChat, which is, primarily where I work. But if you want to follow me on Twitter, I guess you can. It's my personal account, so do keep that in mind. I am
You should. It's fun.
It is at _Wenwei_. So that's _ WENWEI _ and I guess my last parting words to you are that content creation is fun. Know your audience. Be prepared to allow yourself to relax, honestly, because sometimes you will stress too much about it, and you might do more than you need to, quite frankly. And I have seen so many people do such amazing things like TikToks, audio production, videos discussing their audio production. They have used amazing tools to be able to import subtitles and to make their videos look visually appealing, if not watchable, who knows. And I also want to take this space to publicly shout out Sid. He has been amazing. He's given me such great advice. Something that he mentioned about duration, that is so important to the comment I made earlier about pacing. It does matter whether you're looking at something for 2 seconds or 5 seconds or 10 seconds. And sometimes if you have too much on the screen, you give them too little time, that's overwhelming. If you have too little on the screen and you give them too much time, that's distracting. So we are all online in some capacity, and I would not be where I am today if it weren't for all the assistance I received from Aira Agents and from the blind community as a whole. So chances are, if you message somebody on Twitter or Facebook, whatever, they will respond and give you some information about certain tools that you can use to enhance your life so that you gain this knowledge, this visual information that you need in order to create this content, but then you're able to reproduce it without assistance. So that is all I would like to say.
Awesome. And just the fact that this has opened up employment routes for people too is just incredible to me. And the sorts of ways that people have become entrepreneurs at this, like you have. I mean, that is really, a number of folks on this panel have really said, all right, you know what? I'm carving out my own niche. Thank you. Awesome. Well, let's go to Claire. Tell us where we can find you and any final tips and tricks and anything that you would like to let folks know about.
Yeah, so in terms of where you can find me, a lot of my content is on Facebook. So most of it is in a closed Facebook group, but it's absolutely fine to join it. So if you look me up personally on Facebook as Naturally Sensational, you'll find me in a Facebook group on there. If you want to see something a little bit more public, I have also done content before today. If you look up Treehouse Radio on Facebook, you can find me there. And we have a Facebook group and a page. So a number of content pieces actually that I've done with Aira before today using Canva are there on our Facebook public page and in our group as well. And in terms of final thoughts, as someone who has done this for a number of years now, I would say my biggest take from all of this is that it's an always learning journey. You're always learning something new, so be prepared for changes and be prepared to just enjoy the ride, really. And anything that you feel you might be struggling with and you may be struggling to understand how to do, not all software is the most easiest to use. So be prepared to ask those questions if you want to learn something just for the sake of your own reference, really, so that you can think about how can I use this in the future in my content. Be prepared to look things up and ask the agents to just help you and tell you things that you maybe didn't think you knew before, because it really can help in the future, even if you don't really think it straight away.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, and say hello to your little house visitors. They have been very good for you for your public appearance. Thank you. Let's go with Iris now and tell us where folks can read your writing and any final thoughts.
Okay, so firstly, probably the easiest place to find me is on homegrounds.co. It's a digital publication dedicated to all things coffee, espresso, etc. Other than that, honestly, social media wise, you can find me pretty much everywhere: Reddit, Twitter, TikTok, Clubhouse, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll definitely send along links to Janine for the show notes.
Yeah, awesome.
And as far as just biggest pieces of advice, so first, I think the most important thing for a blind or visually impaired content creator of, whether it's digital content or video content, honestly, think of your content creation as just an extension of your everyday life. I would strongly encourage you to get involved in your community and keep abreast of local events if you can. So, like for me, since I write in the food and beverage niche, so I try to attend festivals and go to meetup groups. Really get involved in your community because you can learn a lot that informs the rest of your content creation. Whether it's talking about somebody over, with someone about, maybe a book you've read or about, whatever it is about coffee. You can learn a lot of people, like, you can learn a lot from people through osmosis, and just creating content is about being relatable. So definitely get involved in your community. Secondly, learn as much as you can as a blind or visually impaired content creator about visual concepts. Sometimes I know it's rough but use Aira when possible to watch videos, to go through TikTok, and really get a good grasp of transitional effects in video and what popular memes look like, and basic visual references that people use, from time to time. Hashtags are also really important.
Oh, yes.
And I think, thirdly, connect with other content creators. And this is a personal choice, but I choose on social media, unless it's specifically relevant, I choose not to disclose my disability. Not because, I don't want to represent the community, but I think somebody mentioned before, people do have certain preconceptions of you as a content creator if they find out, oh, she's blind. So I just like to really engage with people without that preconception in place, but that's a personal choice. But yeah,
And I think that's great to point out that you don't have to be the blind social media creator unless you want to be. And then,
absolutely,
good on
absolutely.
you, but,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome. And last but definitely not least, Brian, where can we find you, first of all? And where can we find the circus? Because I think everybody would love to know, where can they see this circus?
Thank you very much, Janine, and thank you so much for putting this together. And thank you to Ira for really showcasing this series, especially during Meet the Blind Month and Employment Awareness Month for disabilities. So, Omnium Circus. We currently are not performing at the moment, but February 25th, 2023, there is a live show scheduled for Tyson's, Virginia. That is at the Capital
Ooh.
One, the brand new Capital One Hall in Tyson's, Virginia,
All
on February
right.
23rd. And tickets for the event go on sale on Tuesday, a day
Ooh.
after Halloween, November 1st. So a last minute trick or treat gift, or even an early Christmas gift to a loved one or family member. Bring them to America's first inclusive circus, fully inclusive circus. All
Cool.
shows are audio described. There is relaxed seating for those who are neurodiverse. We also have a calming center for those who are neurodiverse as well, who may have issues with multisensory or maybe have a sensory overload during the show. The As I said before, we have audio description and we have ASL interpreters throughout the entire show.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
everyone's included at all times during an Omnium Circus performance. You will see the King Charles Unicycle Troupe. They are incredible athletes of basketball who do incredible basketball shots while riding
Oh, wow.
unicycles and whatnot. So you could visit www.omnium circus.org to
Oh,
learn more about our 501c3 nonprofit organization, make a donation, or even learn about how we came about. We're only 2 years old, 2.5 years
oh,
old. So
wow.
we rose right during the pandemic.
I guess you
We're
certainly
actually going to
did.
be,
Wow. Talk about breaking
so
the mold. Wow.
I know. And thank you so much to Lisa Lewis, our founder. So we're a baby,
Sure.
we're growing, really starting to really starting to branch out and really go forward as we do more outreach and workshops in the schools and whatnot. I've ringmastered a few times myself. And
Oh,
in lieu of that,
that had to have been fun.
yes,
Now,
it was an
how
amazing
can we
experience.
how can we find you on TikTok, Brian? Because I'm thinking your TikTok
TikToks.
videos would be fun.
Oh yes, they're amazing. So that'll be B-Boy 8090.
Okay. Awesome.
So B-Boy 8090. Facebook, it'll be Brian Timothy. So
All right.
BRYAN. Because that's my name.
He's the
BRYAN.
Brian with the Y.
Yes. Brian Timothy. And Instagram, Brian Bravado. And YouTube, simply Brian Velasquez with two Z's.
Aha.
VELAZQUEZ. So
Gotcha.
so
Awesome.
definitely follow me there. Some great videos coming up, hopefully soon. Never
Ooh.
know, depending on my schedule. If time permits, you never know. I really like to do videos on when it comes to, for fun, like for hobbies and to just really show off my skills. Because ever since I've remastered for the Big Apple Circus, and it really opened up a new path. Because see, I'm a graduate of St. Thomas Aquinas College in New York, and I have a
Ah.
degree in therapeutic rec.
Oh, so
And
this is like the perfect outlet for you.
yes,
And
and
taking that digital just is that's it just makes me smile because it's one of those, could we have done this even 5 years ago? Mm,
you never
I
know.
don't know, but
But what I wanted to say was to segue into, to complete this off, is life comes around full circle. I used to love the circus and listening to introductions when I was little and listening to the radio, sportscasters and whatnot. And I used to love imitate. According to people, I used to love imitating those people like time after time again. And I was going to study to become a Braille teacher. For years, I was like, Braille teacher, Braille teacher, Braille teacher, Braille teacher, because I saw the teachers. I'm like, oh, I want to be like them. Kids, you don't really, you're not fully developed yet. Your mind is not fully developed yet. But over time, and as I started college, and as I saw when I was doing the observations and the field work for the classes, I was like, you know what, this is not it. So I stumbled into therapeutic rec. So I studied it, and we did geriatrics, and I studied all the populations and whatnot, and did my field work, and then I started working at Hearthstone Palisades, and in all of that, something began to transpire. I began to get that magic back of the circus, the enjoyment of the circuses. We did a program. We did an intervention with the clients with dementia residents, and we showed a documentary on the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus Troupe.
Oh.
So that began to spark that magic again. Because as I got older, I'm like, screw the circus. That's for little kids. I'm a high school kid now. I'm 14 years old. I'm 15 years old. So you got the gist of it. And that's where I volunteered with Big Apple Circus in 2017. And the rest is history. Then I did the ring a few times to open up the show. And that's when I started, you know what? And people were telling me, create a YouTube channel, do stuff. You like voiceover, you like acting, you should do that. You never know what that can lead to. And I'm like, I think I'm going to do just that. And that's when I started doing my TikToks, making impressions of my Dominican colleagues, because I'm Dominican. So making, speaking Spanish. Mira, muchacho, like, for example, there's a video about asking your Dominican parents to go to the store. What did I tell you? Don't do your homework first and go to the store. I'll do an impression of that. Growing up as a child, it goes back. That's what I'm saying. Life comes in full circle. You get to reenact those things and show people how your culture is, good and bad.
Awesome.
I like to do good, but you never know the little childhood stuff that you're like, oh my God, I hate this one. The pesky stuff you have to go through with your parents. Parent-teacher conference. Wendy Williams, a huge celebrity figure. I did impressions of her. I have a lot of friends who are Wendy Williams fans.
Oh my!
They loved it. You gotta, like she said before, I forgot who it was, but cater to your audience. Have everybody included. Make it diverse. Don't just do one thing. Meet the Blind Month is now. I saw it on I don't know how, but I stumbled across it. And I did a whole video on the subway system, what it was like me doing the voices, me pretending how to walk in the subway like at home, having subway sounds in the background.
Oh my!
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
This sounds
what I want to say to you all,
energetic.
Yeah, what I want to say to everybody is before I go is just have fun. Don't be in your head. And I'm working on this myself because I have my moments where I'm like, oh my God, is it gonna come out good? Am I gonna get 0 views? How many views am I gonna get? I hope I get a lot of likes. I hope I get this. Because if you do that, if you come into that mindset, you're doing a video, your performance is gonna start to trail off little by little by little. It's gonna start to trail off little by little by little.
Do what you love and love what you do. It sounds like for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
So this is Brian signing off for now. Thank you guys so much. And until next time, everybody, thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you, Brian. We have one question from the audience that we're going to take because it is a really good one for Amanda. Sid, would you like to read that before we go?
Sure. Amanda, the person was asking about, the diversity of agent skills and the fact that some agents may have a little bit of background that lends itself to it. And kind of in a broad sense, how do explorers find the agents with the right skills? What's the best way to approach it, maybe when they're calling into Aira?
First of all, and that is a really great question. Our agents are all very skilled in describing things and are all very technologically savvy. We make it a point to hire agents that are super flexible and are able to quickly learn different programs and things. So you should be able to work with anyone that you get, but if you do have a specific program, if you're wanting to see if someone has Canva experience or Adobe Pro or something like that, you can request of whichever agent that you get if they have that skill, or for them to see if anyone available has that skill. Just be prepared for the fact that there may not be anyone available, and that leads back into what we were talking about, having notes or being prepared to provide good information, a quick quick start guide to whatever program you're using, or just being able to tell the agents where to go to do things. For the most part, any program that you use, the agent is going to be able to work with, whether they've ever laid eyes on it or not. I have learned how to do so many different things. Agents are highly skilled and may not know an exact program, but they can pick it up pretty quick. So just know that you don't have to immediately write off an agent just because they've never worked with a product before. They can easily, work with you and figure it out pretty quickly.
And I will second that very loudly because I call often to prepare things for Aira. And, I will get somebody who says, well, I'm not really sure. That's okay. I will explain how to do it and what I need, and voila. Well, I want to thank you so much, Amanda and Sid from our agent community, coming on to talk today. Our wonderful panel. We have Iris, excuse me, Iris Pang, Wenwei Fisher, Claire Potter, Robert Kinget, and Brian Velasquez with a Y. I want to thank everyone. I'll just give you a couple more notes here. Everyone, please, if you are doing content creation, the Aira app for desktop is a great way to do that. It's a web app, and you will get to that by going to aira.io/desktop/app. That will get you right into the app. If you just want to read about it, find out how to set it up, aira.io/desktop. Well, thank you so much, everyone. We'll be back with another in our Discovery series on November 29th. That is another Tuesday at 2 p.m. when we're going to talk shopping and business for the holidays. So join us then. We will have some of our Access Network partners and some folks who own small businesses and use Aira to get their business set up for the holidays. Thank you, everyone. This has been Janine Stanley